Well, to talk about the Canada-U.S. trade relationship is Louise Blais, Canada's former ambassador to the United Nations. Madame Blais, thank you for being here.
Great to see you, Michael.
And you. So listen, it sounds like when you listen to what Donald Trump is saying, there seems to be progress being made with the United States when it comes to trade. But then you listen to Secretary Lutnick from earlier today, and those deals will include tariffs. So I'm wondering, how do you think Canadian officials should move forward? Because on the one hand, a positive signal from the president, on the other, a clear signal that you're not going to escape tariffs as a country.
Right. Well, I think you're absolutely right. I think what we saw yesterday is a better tone, a better relationship, a good dialogue. This is not a bad place to be. But I think the Americans have been saying this for quite some time, that they want to see some restructuring of the relationship when it comes to trade. And when you think about all the deals that they've done around the world, they seem to be telling Canada, look, you're going to have something that's relatively better, but you're not going to be a platform for those other continents to export into the United States. So it's as if they want to close a back door and keep things at a certain level. Now, I think some sectors are going to get it better than others, and obviously yesterday I don't think it was very good news for the auto sector. I think what we're hearing from the administration is that they feel that it is their realm to make final assembly. That is the distinction that they made. Parts, well, they seem to be a little bit more open on it, but that's what we're hearing, is that it's going to be on their terms, and they're going to parcel off what Canada, in their mind, can still have. I mean, that's what we're hearing.
Yeah, and that is what we're hearing, as you say. And when you listen to Donald Trump yesterday, he said he thinks Canadians will be happy with the deal, whatever that deal is, whenever it comes. He thinks Canadians will be happy with it. But I wonder if that means happy as compared to other tariffs or other countries and jurisdictions. Because we know the UK now broadly has a 10% tariff on goods. The EU broadly a 15% tariff on goods. So what do you think is a level that would be acceptable for the Americans that Canadians might be able to live with?
Well, I mean, that's the big question. Obviously, it has to be under with these other agreements. It makes absolutely no sense that you would tariff in excess the components that are North American, many of them U.S. components. So clearly they're going to have to bring down those tariffs, probably underneath the deals they've made elsewhere. But at the same time, what we heard yesterday is, and it was the first time that in my recollection that I heard the president say, it's because you, Canada, you're close. You're taking advantage of the fact that you're next door to access our market for free. I'm paraphrasing here. And so he seems to say that there's a particular problem in his mind with Canada. And it was interesting because he didn't mention Mexico, but it's sort of the same thing with them. And their auto industry now is much larger than ours. So that's what's new, and I think we have to navigate that very carefully. I think we have to continue to make the point that the components that are made in Canada, and even the little that is still assembled finally in Canada, is not a threat to their industry. That in fact we have to keep reminding them of the number of Canadian companies employing American and the auto sector. A lot of our companies like Martin Rea and Magna have thousands and thousands and thousands of employees throughout the United States. So, I think the conversation isn't over, but I think yesterday we had a verbalization of their point of view in a way that we hadn't heard publicly before.
Yeah, absolutely. And we also heard the Prime Minister lean in on the fact that, in the last 12 months alone, Canadian firms have invested $500 million into the United States. He went on to say that if Canada gets the deal that he thinks Canada should get, there could be another $1 trillion, $1 trillion over the next 5 years. What do you make of that strategy that Mark Carney was employing, not only behind closed doors, but very publicly in the Oval Office?
Well, I think it was smart for him to say it publicly like that. It was the right place to say it. He could have said it before, but I think we're kind of playing a little catch up with what other countries have done, and like the EU, for example, as you were mentioning earlier. And so these are, why not say that 2 or 3 months ago? Why, it just feels like we're a little bit late to making some of those arguments, at least publicly. One can only expect that they've been made in private. The Prime Minister says that he's been in touch with Donald Trump regularly. We don't know. We never get a readout of those conversations. They say they don't want to negotiate in public. But I think that strategy is important. You have to remind the importance of Canada and the United States. But we'll have to wait and see. It always seems like it has to be framed as a win for Donald Trump. And I'm not sure it was phrased that way yet. You know, it was sort of, this is what I will do, Mark Carney, and it's not clear that the Prime Minister can actually conjure up and force, you know, and pose private sector decisions. But sadly, it has to always be framed as if it's Donald Trump that's making those deals. So we'll have to wait and see whether that's a deciding factor, whether that kind of helps us. But it's a fact that we're an enormously important investor in the United States. We already are. So let alone what we could do in the future.
So what then do you take of the positive words? Because when Donald Trump was talking about Mark Carney, and I'll preface this by saying, because I just came back from Washington this morning. I was in the Oval Office yesterday, and going into that meeting, the background that we were getting from people who are familiar with the situation, they were essentially saying, you know, don't expect much from this meeting. They were downplaying expectations. But at the end of the day, what you had was the U.S. president being very effusive about the Prime Minister, calling him a nice guy, a great leader, a tough negotiator. When you hear those words from Donald Trump, is that a good signal for Canada?
Oh, I think it is a very good signal for Canada. But it's not just a good signal for Canada. It's a good signal for Congress. It's a good signal to investors. People are listening to this around the world. And up until recently, we really have seemed to have been at odds with the Americans. And that is, I don't think, has helped us, our standing internationally in terms of business stability. So the fact that now this is being played all around the world, that they are friends again, quote unquote, that there's a relationship there to build from, I think that's very important. And I'm in D.C. all the time, and I meet with lawmakers regularly. A lot of Republicans, and they'd like things to move forward, and they haven't liked the fact that we have seemed stuck for several months. And they kept telling me, Louise, it will start at the top. That relationship has to be good for anything good to happen. And I think that's what we saw yesterday. And Congress paid attention, and people in government paid attention, and people around in the United States would have picked that up too. So it was good for Canada in that sense. But we have to keep it up. You know, that was yesterday. Today is today.
Yeah, that's your advice to Canadian officials, because the negotiations do go on right now.
They are. I mean, it didn't. And you know, obviously, there's a lot of criticism being placed at the feet of the Prime Minister for going down there without and coming back empty-handed. But I wasn't expecting anything to come of yesterday in terms of a deal. But I still felt it was important that he go and that he build that relationship. And they'll get there. They will get there. It's just going to take a little bit more time. Yeah,
a little bit more time, perhaps in weeks, on steel, aluminum, and energy, as we're hearing from the two sides. You know, I'm already out of time, but I want to ask a very quick question of you. And this is just to Canadians about what to expect, because just to summarize a bit of what you've been saying, it seems like Canadians need to be ready to put some water into the wine right now.
Well, absolutely. I think, you know, this is our number one trading partner, our number one investor in Canada by a long shot. And when you look at, you know, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that we export there every year. And our next partner is China at $27 billion the last time I checked. I mean, it's not even in the same stratosphere. So this is an important relationship. We're going to repair it. We will get through it. It might look different moving forward, but that doesn't mean that it won't be successful. And I think it's very important that people-to-people ties remain strong. Americans are our friend. I'm there all the time. I feel safe. I feel welcome. And I think we just have to still believe that the continental competitiveness will I was going to say Trump the rest. And I think we're, you know, a year from now we'll be in a better place than we are now. But I think we have to adjust at what that is. But that does not mean that the United States won't continue to be our number one ally.
Louise Blais, always appreciate the time. Thank you for this.
Thank you for having me.